Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. I made something cool and I want to show you it. This is a little sword generator that randomizes various parts of the sword, and I can create various swords with it. So when I hit this seed, I have various swords that are created. Style, basically same kind of style or design, but various parts are different. So the hilt is longer on some, the guard is different, wider. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Sometimes the blade can be longer, shorter. Um, I can have set up various settings here, so I can have it as a sword array, and then each array instance is different. And I can up the count. I also created this little mesh boolean. So right now you can see I want it to be on or off. So if I create a sword, I can edit it easier after. But then if I like all the swords as it is, having it on is going to be better because, for example, I'm going to go Shift D, duplicate that mesh. And with it on, I'm going to go and apply. I can apply this generator here. Apply. Now, face. Select all those things. And then go P. Selection. Oh no. P by loose parts. And so I have each sword will be individual. And that's going to make a lot of things easier for having them all in one separate objects. But if I go and then I'm just going to go back till I have that. But if I have it off and then I apply that modifier, if I go like that, make sure I'm in full X-ray mode. P by loose parts. Now I have a whole bunch of other parts. So the blades are all individual. So it makes it a little bit harder to work with, but not difficult, harder, just not what I want to do sometimes, or maybe what you don't want to do. So Control Z, all that. X, delete. And how this is made is by utilizing the for each element. So I have a curve, which I create a basic curved line. I subdivide it, and then I set position one of the points, the midpoint down. So I have a point here, point here, point here. Then I use duplicate elements to create a whole bunch. And then for each element, for each spline, comes in. And then on point 2, I'm not sure why that's 2, but regardless, I am offsetting the length of this point here, the position of it, for each of these curves. Then I separate this curve into two parts, one for the handle, one for the blade. So it's just, curve to mesh, separate geometry, and then I do a bunch of things where I want to offset position. Actually, yeah, this makes more sense. Yeah, this makes more sense. Right here, I'm offsetting the position of this part here. Going into the create blade. X there. So basically, a curve to mesh. I create this profile here. That's my sword profile. And I use that on the curve to mesh. Then I'm using this float curve here to create the base shape. So I'm using a spline parameter into the float curve value, and that allows me to kind of create, various shapes and sizes of the sword. I can go swords like that, create other points. So I can create various shapes of swords. I'm going to Control Z because I kind of like how I had it before. There we go. And then I have the guard here. I'm starting with a curved line here. I'm making it wide. I'm making it wider. And so I'm using random value to make the width, different widths on each sword. Then I am using the curve to mesh, and then I'm doing the same thing on the sword. I'm creating a base profile shape to create this part here, goes narrow and wide. The point going here, because I'm instancing that on the point. Then this here, I'm scaling the ends here. And then this part here, oh yeah, this part, I'm offsetting it going up or down to make it go up or down or whatever. Then this is my hilt. So same idea, curve to mesh, creating a profile. Then I can create kind of the hilt that kind of goes like this, or like this, or like that. And then I can offset it. So move it up and down. And this is the pommel. It's just a UV sphere, rotated 9 degrees, instanced on the last point here. And then do shade smooth, set a material. And then here, this is where I have either the join geometry or the mesh boolean into a menu switch. And then this one's actually quite important here, this split to instances. So if I go mute, it does not work. So what this does is for each of these elements here, it creates an instance, which is fed into the instance on points for this mesh line or points. And then it picks an instance on each of the points. So I can have some randomness. So the main thing with this thing is for each element to create random effect, randomness on each part, and that's thanks to do with the index. the index out on this for each element, and that I feed that into the ID of the random value. So then on each instance or each element point, it's going to be different. And then it's just having fun. How many swords do I want? I can change the seed. And then if I like some, I can just create a bunch of swords. And yeah, kind of a fun project. And there's way more one can do with this. Create different kinds of blades, instance different kinds of blades, everything, just depending on how complex you want to go and build with this. So to overview, create curved lines, manipulate it, feed into here, and then do various things on each of the points or curves, combine them together, use this split to instance, feed that into the instance on points, make sure pick instance is enabled. If I don't, all the instances are just going to overlap each other on each of those points, so it chooses which one you want. And then this realize instances is actually important, because if I don't have that on M, I'm just gonna shift D, and then I'm on this one here. I'm going to apply. I can't. It says it does not contain mesh because these are all still instances. So I need to make sure it's all mesh. So I go M to unmute it. So M mutes a node. And then if I go apply, it's actually going to do the job. So Control Z. So I can just go like that. There we go. Now, if you're still watching, what's your favorite color? Leave your answer in the description. Actually, comments. Have a great one. Thank you. Bye.